Okay.
Yes.
So day 27 September 2024, time is this, and in our session we have reached to the day 125. Day 125. Middleware. As name suggests, middleware, as your name suggests, there is something called as middleware. Whenever you send the request, before executing the request, if you want to execute something, that is called as middleware. See, Express is a routing and the middleware web framework. Very important thing. Express is a routing and middleware web framework that has minimal functionality of its own. An Express application is essentially a series of middleware function calls. This is the interview type question. An Express application is essentially a series of middleware function calls. Middleware functions are the functions that have access to request object and the response object. Middleware functions that have access to the request object and the response object and the next middleware function in the application's request response cycle. The next middleware function is commonly denoted by the name next. Okay. Now, next means what? You can pass it to the next. So it is like this. If this is your if this is your one middleware, this is your second middleware, this is the third middleware. So here you will have request response, here you will have request response, here you will have request response, and there is a next. Next will give you access to this. Here is also there is next. Next will give you access to this. Okay. So when you talk about the middleware, it is having three things. First, request, response, next. Request, response, and the next. Middleware function can perform following tasks. They can execute any code, make the changes to the request and response object, end the request response cycle, and call the next middleware function in the stack. They execute any code, make changes to the request and response objects, end the request and response cycle, and call the next middleware function in the stack. Things to be noted. What middleware function can do? Middleware functions can perform the following task: execute any code, make changes to the request and response object, end the request response cycle, call the next middleware in the stack. If the current middleware function does not end the request response cycle, it must call the next function to pass the control to the next middleware function. Here we have C. If it doesn't end, it should pass to the next middleware. This is middleware function, this is middleware function, this is middleware function. An Express can have following types of Express can have following types of middleware: application level middleware, router level middleware, error handling middleware, built-in middleware, third-party middleware. Types of middlewares. There are these 5 types of middlewares are available: application level middleware, router level middleware, error handling middleware, built-in middlewares, and third-party middlewares. Is that okay?
Yes.
Now application level middleware, if you see, it is application level, bind the application middleware to the instance of the app object. So if you remember, what do you mean by app object? See, this is the app object. So that middleware will execute before all of these things. It will intercept all of other routes in your application. The bind the application level middleware to an instance of the app object by using app.use and app.method functions, where method is the HTTP method of the request that middleware function handles, get, put, post, etc. That is the application level middleware. Then router level middleware. Now router level middleware works in the same way that application level middleware, except it is bound to the instance of the router. Presently you don't know what is router. We will see. What do you mean by router? Error handling middleware, right? App.use, ERR is the first object. So define the error handling middleware functions in the same way as the other middleware functions, except that there are 4 arguments instead of 3. The first one is an error, request, response, and the next. Built-in middlewares, there are a lot of built-in middlewares. If you want to send the JSON, you can have the JSON over here. Okay, so router level middleware, application level middleware, see here. So this is the application level middleware. So here also you can write the next app.get, something like this, next. Okay. So when you talk about the middlewares, you need to understand that you are talking about something that intercept your request and response object. Here we can have app.js, but we need to install the Express. So terminal, desktop, stack, cd day 125, npm init and npm I express. We have installed the Express. Now basic stuff we can copy. So this part is same. We can have a get request, because in a browser we can try get. Let's start the Express server. This is how we will start the Express server, and here we can say simple. Okay. Now application level middleware, if you can see, app.use, and here we can have request, response, and the next. So this guy is going to be called console.log. Here we can say called app level middleware. Just call next. If you don't call next, remember that before execution of any of the request, it is going to call this middleware. So this function would be getting called before execution of the anything. Okay. Now if you see one thing over here, application level middleware, this example shows the middleware function that would be getting executed, route and its handler. Okay. Now here is an example of loading the series of the middleware functions at the mount point, at the mount path. It illustrates the middleware stack, something like this. So if you see, this is the first middleware. If you see, this is the second middleware. At the mount point itself, you are writing what you can say the middleware. So here let's run this code first. npm node app.js express server is running, localhost 3000 / simple. Now go to the terminal. Can you see called app level middleware? So this thing is getting called and then it is sending this thing. So here we can say called the get method, Now you need to rerun it. It will not run automatically. Refresh it. Go on the console and see called the app level middleware, called the get method. So basic funda behind the middleware is this. Before execution of this actual request, this would be getting executed. Now see app.get. App level means what? Whatever endpoint you are going to call, first this function would be getting executed and then this. See now here basic, and then here you can write series of middlewares. Can you see here in this way? Request, response, next, multiple. At the mount level you are writing means this would be getting applicable to this. First this guy would be getting executed, then this, and at the end this is also middleware. Request, response, this thing. So from here we need to do next, if you want to perform anything, any action over here, console.log mount level middleware 01, this one, mount level middleware 02, and at the end if you want to write request, response, and sending the response. So here we can say response dot send end of request. And here you can see something like this 03, or handling request. Here we can write handling request here. Run it instead of simple. Basic. Next is missing. Can you see? You didn't write next over here, you didn't write next over here. So it is not passing control from this middleware to this middleware. So next call is important. Next. And here also next call is important, so that you run it. Basic, response dot send, we call the here next. Oh, something else is happening. Next is next. Can you see express server is running? Basic, end of the request. We have reached end of the request. And if you go here, can you see called the app level middleware, then mount level middleware 01, mount level middleware 02, and handling the request. So this is the app level, this is the mount level, and there are 3 more stages also: router level, error handling middleware, built-in middleware, third-party middlewares. So from this, whenever we will learn the router, we will see both error and the router level. But this is the basic idea behind the, what you can say, middleware. This is how middleware works actually. So I'll push this much code, Node.js, sorry, ExpressJs middleware intro. Did you get that?
Yeah.
Fine. So just go through this much today, and we will continue tomorrow with the router. Okay? Let's not make a hurry. Yeah.
Tomorrow or Monday?
Monday.
Okay.
Or I'll update you if we are conducting tomorrow. I'll update you. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.